Hello, Eloise. So we've got a couple of things going today. Um,
Yeah.
we're going
Hi
to
everyone in the
try,
podcast land.
yeah, we're talking to everyone in podcast land, and we're going to see if we can also get a video up. It's just going to be of me, but you'll hear Eloise's voice. So we're going to
Yeah.
change things around today. Eloise and I have been looking at, feedback, and uh, people actually preferred when we were talking for an hour. So we might have to build up again to an hour, but at this point we'll see how that pans out, right, Eloise?
Yeah, well, we'll just go with the energy of it, and it just feels like things have stagnated a bit, so we need some excitement. Woo.
We need some excitement, right? Well, we both do so many things, right? So
Yeah.
with all the things that we do, something actually builds up, like an energy builds up in one area, and then it goes down in another one, and then we go, okay, let's stimulate something. So, yes, I'm on with, my name's Terryann Nikitas. I'm on with Eloise Ansel. Our podcast is Dose of Truth Tarot. So those of you listening on the podcast, that's fine. But those of you watching on YouTube or Instagram, you're just going to obviously get to know that we have Dose of Truth Tarot podcast. We also have tarot courses going on. There's a lot of activity, so you could join us on Instagram, join the podcast, whatever you'd like to do, or even watch on YouTube. So
Yeah.
Eloise and I
We've
were
got
just
Facebook.
Eloise and I were just considering what we'd like to do today. So we were thinking of just talking about one card, also inviting all of you to, write in, just write to us wherever you find us. The website is doseoftruth.com, right?
Oh,
And
this is truth family. Yeah.
yeah, so, just find us. You just put Dose of Truth Tarot in and you'll find us on Instagram.
Or you can send us an email
And
at
email us. Yeah.
info@doseoftruthtarot.com.
You can do that. And it'd be great if you can like and share our podcasts and videos. That would be great. Look for our
Yeah, leave us a
upcoming
review.
courses and classes. They'll be starting again next year. Right now we're closed for the year, but next
Yeah,
year.
but you can, if you go to our website, doseoftruthtarot.com, you can actually leave your email address and we'll be in touch when we reopen.
Exactly. Great. That's perfect, right? So today we're switching up the energy, so I'm a little bit, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So people have asked us, usually what happens when we're learning tarot, the biggest struggle an individual has is usually projecting into the card what they want to know, right? So they'll put a reading out, and you could either get a little bit discombobulated. Let's say you look at it and go, I don't know if it's a yes or a no. I don't know what that actually means. So we're just going to look at something simple to do. First of all is, you want to get to know your cards. That's really important to get to know them. So, or if you don't know them, you can use your little booklet, right? But most people have had so many experiences, especially when, in the old days, people would call you up on the phone to make an appointment. It wasn't so much online. And they would say, I would like you to give me a tarot reading for free, because it's free online. So I'd say, well, I don't need to do that. I could just go and take a bath, and you can go online and get your free tarot reading. I can't tell you how many times this happened. I say, I'm not doing your reading. If you get it for free, go get it for free online. Go have some fun. And inevitably, a day later, a few days later, a week later, I went online and I did the reading, but I don't understand what it means. It's like, well, yeah, that's what I charge for is my expertise, my understanding, um, the way I put together the cards themselves and their reading and what that means to you and how that will play itself out. So there's a couple of paradoxes that happen when you start to read cards. One of the things is people will ask questions about the future. And of course, we cannot read the future. Maybe you can read what's going to happen 2 or 3 days before it happens. But usually you can't. It's all probability. There are just too many variables to be able to figure out what's going to happen. So the cards don't diagnose. You can't diagnose with the cards. If somebody comes in and says, do I have cancer? You never answer a question like that because, the more you educate yourself, you can understand you could have cancer in your body at any given moment. Do I have a virus? Well, yeah, you do. We all have viruses in our body. Do I have microbes in my body? Well, yeah, you do. Will I attract love in my life? That's getting a little different. It's really looking at we can look at the cards. So let's pretend we've got, just some fake individual for the moment who says, will I have love in my life? Now I'm going to do something that is very, very difficult. And that is a 1-card reading. Why is it difficult? Well, if you don't know your cards and have experience, you're going to read it very linearly, meaning you'll pick either the definition from the book, you might not know which one to pick, like there can be several adjectives describing the card, and you won't know which one to pick. So as you learn the cards more and more, which I'm not going to necessarily teach you here, it's a long process, but begin to show you what could happen if, let's say, I use Suzie all the time as this unknown individual. So let's say Susie's asking whether she's going to attract love in her life, and the moon comes up. So the moon, I'm showing the moon card to the group on YouTube and Instagram, and for you in the podcast. And I'll just describe it to you. It's number 18 in Roman numerals. And in this particular photo, there's a moon, a ceramic moon on a dark background. It's a black and white photo. And it's got broken bits of ceramic as well. So each card will give you a different quality, of course, but you do need to know what the moon means. In a reading, you need to know what it would mean with an individual, and you'd have to apply it to the question. And also, let's say Suzie is asking, will I attract love? So obviously from the question, the first thing we know is they don't have love. And also, what do they mean by love? So the moon already shows us there's a nebulousness to the question. Meaning, will I attract love in my life? Is very different from, will I have a relationship? Will I get married? But they're all those elements can be in the question, but we don't know which elements Susie's talking about, right? So we're very general about our questions many times. So it does encourage a new reader, and some readers that I know who are experienced, they will listen to a question that is not clear, doesn't really state exactly what we want, what a person wants. Because if I want love in my life, does it mean I'd like to feel love? Does it mean I'd like to experience love? Do I want a loving family? Maybe I've come out of a difficult family, and do I want to have some love in my life, whether it's loving friends? We don't know what that person means if they just ask that question. We can assume Will I have love in my life? Meaning, will I have someone who loves me? So I would ask the person to clear it up. But let's say you get the question by email, or it's on your website, or it just comes in as I've stated it. Will I attract love? Well, it's when you see the moon, it's already telling us there's a huge amount, because the moon is feminine, and the feminine is all about the unconscious. So already the question is not very conscious. We don't know exactly what Suzie wants. So you're going to hear a lot about Suzie, even though Suzie's not real. It's almost like I formed this person to be able to do this work.
She's going to be my best friend, my new imaginary best friend.
My new imaginary best friend, who I'm trying to help out to get out of her unconscious mind and to have, some really nice questions for herself, so she can actually likely feel loved, have a relationship, get into a relationship, right? So oftentimes, my experience is people who come in, will I have a relationship? We already have a huge sense that they, let's put it this way. If you know you want a relationship, and it's right through your whole being, I find it just draws the relationship in rather easily. So in my life, whenever I decided, I want to be on my own, I'd like to be exploring whatever I need to explore in my life, do my traveling, I'm on my own. And then the moment I felt like, I want a relationship, it was very fast. I'd say days. It wouldn't take much longer than days. Sometimes immediately. I'd say, I want a relationship, in that night I'd begin a really intense relationship. And two of them specifically, I almost married. I was really close to marrying. And when I just wanted frivolous relationships, I attracted it. Now, I'm not saying everyone can do that, but it did give me an awareness that when I close the door, I close the door. When I open the door, I open the door. But some people say their door is open, but it's not. Because they would attract someone into their lives. Usually the mind starts saying, yeah, but there's no place to meet anyone. I don't know, what other excuses do you notice people come up with?
There aren't any good men.
There aren't any good men.
Yeah,
it's great, right? The number of excuses we can come up with. So when you see the moon, you know that a lot of that is going to take over someone's experience, right? The moment you see this, the moon coming up, you know there's all this unconscious influence. So no matter how much a person will be adamant that they want a relationship, but they don't have one, and they're asking someone else when they would have one, clearly indicates that something is going on that is resisting a relationship, even if their conscious mind, they're literally saying out loud, but I want one. What's wrong with everybody? Or what's wrong with me? The minute you hear what's wrong with everybody or what's wrong with me, already dictates that you've got some doors closed. If I already think something's wrong with people, well, I'm not going to be very open to relationships. If I think something's wrong with me, well, I've already closed the door. It's done. So the moon would indicate that is the problem. Let me try another one so we could see. Will I attract love in my life? And we get, it's not so far off. This one's judgment. Okay, so it doesn't go very far away, because that means, that can mean several things. The person could be judgy, right? Very judgy about things. So the way I've just described all men are the same, or all women are the same, or I can't trust women, or the woman says I can't trust men. Well, yes, that would be judgment. That's really projection of one's own, let's say, experiences, which are not reality. They don't necessarily, if I have a bad experience with men, that does not mean it's all men. If I have 50 experiences with men that are bad, those are my experiences. That's what I'm attracting. That's what now the other part of judgment is karma and rebirth. So that would be my karma. So when people say, oh, I've dated all these guys and they're all the same. Well, we don't often look that the common denominator is myself, right? It took me a really long time to look at that for myself, because I look back at, all the men that I was serious with, and they were lovely. They were just lovely men, they're still lovely men. And I think, oh, wow, I never thought to think what a beautiful reflection of myself that would be.
I love that. Yeah.
And even attracting, that doesn't mean I haven't dated, jerky guys or stuff like that, but that's dating. And, I dump them the minute I go, oh, you're just mean, or you're just nasty, or you're just,
Yeah.
You never know why you're attracted to someone or why you go out with someone at any particular time. But if it's a couple of weeks, or 4 weeks of dating someone, and then you go, okay, no, you're just not nice. I prefer not to be with somebody like you, and you go off. But the man I stayed with, we're talking about years. They're all beautiful, and the man I'm with now is absolutely wonderful. So you realize that's a reflection of yourself as well. So that would be karmic as well, right? Karmic. So if somebody said, will I attract love in my life, there can be something karmic that they need to work through. Yeah. There can be too much judgment on their part from themselves. Usually they think it's other people judging them, but if the judgment card comes, well, if you start saying it's someone else, if you use my example, if I met nice men, then I've been with nice men, it's a reflection of me. Well, that's kind of nice. So when they're not nice, not in every circumstance, right? You can meet nasty people, right? Just like the weather can change, and it can be bad weather and you don't like it. Like some people don't like rainstorms and other people like them. That's different, right? You can meet some people and you don't like them. You can meet someone, find them physically attractive, go out with them, and then after a while you go, oh no, this isn't for me. Oftentimes sexuality doesn't determine preference. We can be sexually attracted to someone, but it doesn't determine preference. That's different. There could be a strong genetic, scent to someone that you can make good, strong children, but it doesn't mean the person's experience in life and their personality and how they've, developed as a human being is what you prefer. So that's always tricky for people. But I'm so attracted. I am so glued to him. Yeah, you are, but he's a jerk. So, you talk about just because you're attracted to someone does not necessarily mean they're good for you, right?
Yeah.
That's, I'm old now, 61 years old, right? I'm the crone, and I can tell you sexuality, sexual attraction, it does not necessarily mean it makes a relationship. And, when we're young, we can get very possessed by sexuality. I mean, those hormones running through the body. And then later on, we wonder why we made those choices. Well, you just don't remember how strong those hormones were. So that's a different thing altogether. Let's try another one. This will be fun to do this. So here's seven of swords. So seven of swords, again, it tells us something a little bit different. So, will I attract love in my life? Asks Suzie. And it would be, well, Suzie, your mind is overactive and needs a rest. So again, the cards are alluding to judgments. They're alluding to the unconscious as well, because resting the mind isn't something we necessarily can do, right? How many people do meditation and say, I find it so hard because I'm trying to stop my thoughts? Well, we can't. Thoughts are thoughts. They'll continue moving. It's really our involvement with those thoughts. And we learn to, I can see my thoughts. They're moving around. I don't need to stop them. I'm just here while I see my thoughts. I'm in awareness. So that would be a powerful tool for Suzie to use, to be able to see that, her thoughts actually are a barricade. And if you saw this card, the swords actually cross each other like a barricade, telling us that, well, your thinking is in the way. So you might meet someone, you really like them, you start to have, terrible thoughts about yourself. Well, you're not going to be able to attract someone. Or you see someone, you're attracted to them, they're not attracted to you, which can happen. And you take it personally and you're obsessed by that person. I mean, there's so many different ways we can go about it. Of course, we're using single cards here. And just saying, okay, so here's Suzie. So far with these three cards, the description of Suzie would be, she's extremely judgmental. She has a ton of thoughts. Her unconscious is impacting her. And she's constantly thinking about, how am I going to get a relationship? What do I do to get a relationship? How do I change myself to get a relationship? Maybe I need to lose weight. Maybe I need to have a boob job. Maybe I need to have a nose job. Maybe I need to do this, that, and the other thing. And all of that is like a cloud. And, we know that swords represents air, but we also know that it's also very piercing, right? So the mind is cutting. We say someone has a cutting wit, a sharp mind. It can chop someone. So you can chop yourself and chop the other. So when somebody is very chopping in their mind, let's say sarcastic quips, especially coming from females. When females are sarcastic, it really repels males. It's a perfect repelling device. You want to repel a man, be sarcastic, unless he's masochistic or likes to be hurt. But sarcasm, terrible comments, they will immediately, it's almost like a perfect way to create impotence in the male. That's my view, because it's almost like castrating the male, right? And also what's interesting is that, throughout history or naturally, men want to make women laugh. And women making men laugh, it's not so, they don't really care about that. Men don't really, it's not part of the mating game. It's, that someone can be funny and you could laugh at a woman who is funny. There are plenty of comedians out there are hysterical and men laugh their heads off. But when it comes to I'm attracting love, making jokes isn't necessarily what's going to attract a man. It's what he needs to do to make the woman smile, and that means, okay, she's attracted, she's into me. But her making him laugh, it doesn't do anything. Right?
All my jokes are wasted.
On men, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're wasted, for certain. Quips, but especially when they become, you don't do that, but if they become biting or sarcastic or, very cutting, it can turn a man off so quickly. I don't see Susie's character doing that so far with these cards. She's more in her head, cutting herself, let's say, more in her head, judging herself. And then it gets reflected back to her from others. So if she gets all dressed up and a man doesn't respond, it's going to reflect back into Susie's head, and she's going to go, "Oh my God, he doesn't like my dress," or maybe I look too fat, maybe something is out of place, or that's what she'll do immediately. That's the sense I get. Not that someone who's sarcastic and uses sarcasm or quips or cutting remarks, they're doing the same thing, but it comes out of them, which is different, which is quite different. And then it has nothing to do with this reading, these three cards. But if you got, let's say, a cups upside down, that would be very different. That would be that she's emotionally kind of dripping all over the place. Now, what's fascinating by emotionally dripping all over the place, if we pulled out an entire reading and she's emotionally dripping, but she does meet someone or attract someone, that means she's attracted the savior. So I've seen this really often where the woman does, have problems, is, always in trouble, always, melodramatic. She can attract someone who's going to save her. It happens very often. But the problem with that is if this gal doesn't grow up, usually at some point, it could take 10 years, it could take a year, it could take months, it could take 10 years, 15 years, but he will one day get fed up of saving her. So that's an interesting, point. So you could say, well, she's dripping all over the place. She's got these emotional issues, but she will attract someone. The problem is if you look further into the future, especially, I don't tell them those things necessarily unless they say, will I ever get divorced? Then I would look and see and say, yeah, you will. And then if they ask why, say, well, you have this particular issue. It's how you attract men. You get into your drama. So it's a safety place for you. It keeps you safe to be emotional and get into drama. And it's really hard for someone to recognize their drama. And then they'll go off and find the guy, but eventually he won't be able to. It's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. You never know when that moment will come. When will you break this guy's back? I've seen it happen within weeks where, a woman will say, am I going to meet someone? And how long will it last? So I'll say, well, you're going to meet someone, but it's only going to last, a couple of weeks. Why? Well, because, your drama is going to break his back. I'm not dramatic. I'm like, okay, well, what can I do with that? I'm reading a deck of cards, and if you don't see your own drama, and what's interesting is they come back. And when they come back, they go, it actually happened. Or another situation was a gal, I described this gal's future relationship and that after a year it would break up. And she said, I think you're wrong. I think you're reading the past. And I went, okay, I don't really read the past. It's not necessary. I know, I use a card to tell me approximately, where they're coming from and if the card has resolved something or whether they're still going to deal with it in the future. So I looked at the card and just saw emotionally she hadn't dealt with certain things. She hadn't, kind of matured. It's really about growing up. Hey? It's like, okay, I'm going to become an adult. And some people don't become an adult for a lifetime. You can be 80 and still not an adult. So I look and see, and I go, well, my assessment of this reading would be I'm not reading the past. You already did this in the past, and you will do it again. And she said, oh, no way. I won't do it again. And, a few months, I think it was like this time of maybe April. And then she came back in October and said, oh my God, I did it again. Yeah. So since you were able to see that, can you help me out? And I said, I can help you out, but it's pretty tough to hear, what your problems are. So, many times in tarot, I even have a friend who always said to me, you could open a practice just being someone's mirror. They could walk in and you could just mirror them. And the moment you mirror them, that it'll just break them down, and it'll break down their defenses, and they would be, already starting their healing process. And I was like, yeah, that's quite something to just have a practice like that. But I often do that when someone says, what is going on? Well, let me tell you exactly how I see you. And usually I have some cards in front of me that really support and anchor me, and I go ahead and almost become them. And I go through it, and then all of a sudden I stop, and I feel, oh, did I go too far? Was that too much? And they just turn around with wide eyes, and they'll say, that's exactly what I do. I'm like, well, time to begin. So let's ask the cards, what are things you can do? What are areas you can look at? Maybe types of treatments or exercises you can do when you go home. I mean, with someone with all my experience, I've got a ton of tools in my toolbox, and if I don't, I can intuit where we should go online, and see what we could bring up for the person. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah.
So those are just the little ideas for the reader to begin to understand that you need to be very precise about your question. Even if you just answer, will I find love in my life? If a person even finds a relationship and never ever loves themselves, never feels love, then, the cards might say you'll never find love. But they'll find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So it's fascinating. You do need to be very precise. So that's the first, let's say, assumption that we make, is that the question is accurate. Some people will ask me yes/no questions in their heads. And then I hear, as soon as they say yes or no, I get the sense of, uh-oh, you didn't ask the question. So I'll just write them back. I have no idea what the question is. And I rephrase the question. Make sure you have no shoulds in there, or have tos. What will I do, or not will? What will I do? If it's yes or no, it would be will I. If it's when, it's not going to be yes or no. It's just got to be something that's a yes or no. Will this project work out? Is basically a yes or no. But if it's should I definitely get the feeling that something's off there. And if you do answer it, it could fail, because the cards really don't like should I. Because should I, date this guy? And the cards go, okay, go date him. Who cares?
Yeah.
It could be part of your karma that you need to go out with this real jerk.
Yeah.
What if it's worse? So these should questions can be very dangerous in the tarot, because we don't know your karma.
Yeah.
Right?
To me, it always feels like you're giving your power away.
It is. Clearly. You're saying that a deck of cards and a reader know what's best for you, and you assume, but you do give your power away. That's one thing, but the one I'm more, that impacts me more personally, yes, you do give your power away asking someone what you should do. But the problem is, it could be really bad, because usually people say, should I do this? With the idea that it's going to be a good thing for them. But the cards don't care about what's good or bad for you. The cards are only looking at, oh, if you go and fall down that hole, then you will have a realization in your life. It will shift the mess you're in. But you will fall down the hole and maybe break both legs. You know, so not only giving our power away, but the second part is you don't know how dangerous your question is. It's so dangerous. Even, what is in my greatest and highest good? Well, that's another crazy question. Because if I go to my greatest and highest good, I better be ready for what's going to come to me. Because my greatest and highest good could be this big pie in the face. Because it's going to wake me up. Because I don't know what the universe wants. Right? The universe might want me to stop being such an idiot. Yeah, or the universe might, let's keep it simple. The universe might go, you want to give your power away? Well, what's in your greatest and highest good is to stop giving your power away. So we're going to give you we're going to tell you, yes, go ahead and do this when it's going to make a big mess out of your life. And that's going to get you to go, I'm not giving my power away again. So, to be really cautious of those questions. Now, ethically as a tarot reader, that's what I help people see, is that these nebulous questions are more dangerous than you think they are. So keep it simple. Use your intellect. Will I? And of course, we can't predict the future. We're only predicting probabilities. So we can look at what the greatest probability is. I like to give like a general percentage. So if somebody says, will I get accepted to this university? I can look and see whether it's a 90% acceptance rate, 95, or is it down to 50 or 40 or any number in between. I look at that. So we'll continue this because we're going to get into too much and I want to keep it nice and precise. And I'd like people to ask questions. You can ask questions, and we'll also critique your questions, make sure they're good questions. I will change your question if it is, should I, or I'll just make sure we're talking about that so that you're asking a clear question and we're looking at the probabilities. So we'll have some fun with that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Sounds good? Yeah. Thank you, Eloise, and thank you everyone in podcast land. Please like and share, and everyone in YouTube and Instagram, please like and share our videos. Thank you, and have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye. Yeah,